Okay, well, cheers. Thank you for coming on,
Yes,
brother.
sir. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
This is your second episode. Bro,
Oh.
I'm so excited to talk to you about this shit. I had a fucking list of questions. I didn't send them to you because I kind of wanted to ask you them. I know I told you I was going to send them to you. I fucking lied. Because I'm trying
That's all right.
Okay, so for those of you who aren't in the know, Vito here is not only a great guy, a friend of mine, and among many, many things that you're great at, one of the things that they might not know is that you're a very, very, very talented and intelligent electrical engineer. You know, the first time I met you, actually, this is just a quick aside, but it's like kind of proof of concept, I guess.
Yeah.
The first time I met Vito, I was visiting my friend Vishal, who's been on the podcast. Shout out to you, Vishy. You guys went to New Paltz together.
Yes.
And like the first time I met you, I was going up to visit Vishal in New Paltz. And then I'm like, he's touring me through, I guess like this wasn't his first dorm. It was like when you guys had moved out into like your separate own house.
In the suite.
Yeah, in the suite.
Yeah.
So I'd already met you, but this is the first time I'm meeting up with you guys in that new house because it was like much better than like the previous circumstance. So then I go up there and I'm like now I go into your room and I'm looking around and I'm like, what the fuck? Like, okay, first of all, a clean room. You got a nice PC. You were playing video games. I'll never forget this.
Of course.
And I'm like looking around and I'm like, besides his PC, I see all this like tech, like random shit. And I'm like, what the fuck is all this stuff? There's like didn't you have a 3D printer?
Yeah, and I still do. I just built a new one actually. But in college, yeah, there were drones probably hanging on the wall.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
You had like a workshop / bedroom. It was like really, really cool.
Well, because I mean, I love doing that stuff and I didn't want to stop going to college. So we had to make space for it.
Yeah. So you're like a tinker, would you say?
Definitely.
Like naturally, right?
Yes, definitely.
So this is just like even a better, like what you chose, your passion, right? As like a tinker, you chose down like a really interesting career too. Like a career path in like education in electrical engineering. So your specialty is in radio technology, right?
Yes.
All right. So this is like the most rudimentary question, but I've never even bothered to Google this.
Please.
What is the fucking difference between AM and FM radio?
Amplitude modulation and frequency modulation. So when you modulate something, that's putting the information or data onto the signal that's carrying it. So that's the way that it's putting the data into the radio frequency wave. AM modulation, it's changing the amplitude of the signal, like this pretty much the strength of it up and down. Frequency, it's adjusting it side to side. Frequency is how quickly the signal is shaking per second. It adjusts that per second to transmit the data through it. Different modulation.
So if it's a high frequency, it'll look like a really, really smushed spring, right?
Yeah.
If it's a low frequency, it'll look like a super long, elongated spring.
Yes.
And then you're saying the width of the spring?
The height of it is AM changing the height of it to modulate data is AM modulation. Changing the timing of it or the width of it is the frequency modulation.
Okay.
Yeah.
So is there any particular reason that like AM radio is like the shit staticky and like boring channels?
Because it gets all the noise in it and it's very basic. It's usually not much filtering behind it. It's very simple. You can almost make an AM radio fairly simply out of a couple simple tools to listen onto something.
Okay.
But being so simple, a lot of noise, a lot of stuff gets carried onto it, and that's what you're hearing. But you can go very far with it. A lot of emergency broadcasts are still on AM radio stations. Like if an emergency happened, they would broadcast on that because most people have a car radio that can still listen to FM or AM or a little one of those little workshop radios that you can still listen to.
Okay.
So they still utilize AM for emergency stuff. It's dwindling in the commercial side, but yeah.
So, okay, now you said something before when you were explaining the difference between AM and FM that was super interesting. You had said something along the lines of putting data on the wave.
Modulating, yeah.
Okay, so what does that mean? How does one put data onto a frequency?
So say you're listening to the radio at 100.3. That's the 100.3 is the frequency of the wave. So that's the wave, the frequency. It does 100.3 frequency cycles, million cycles per second with megahertz. And on that wave, it modulates the information if you're listening to the radio, that's probably FM. It's going to change how finally the frequency is changing in time to put data onto it. And your radio is picking it up on your little receiver. There's probably a little wire that's acting as the antenna. It's receiving that, and it's looking for that FM modulation, decodes it, and then you hear the audio on the other side.
How do you can't see my eyes right now. I'm squinting hard as fuck at you because how the fuck okay, so I understand conceptually, right?
Yeah.
But what I'm asking for, because I just can't believe it. I understand conceptually, theoretically what you're saying, right?
Mm-hmm.
You're manipulating this thing to output this thing, and then your receiver decodes the information, you extract the information from once it's decoded.
Yes.
But like, if I'm asking you, for example, like, how do I get this thing smooth? Okay, you take a sandpaper because it's rough, and then I get this thing by friction, and then it's gonna the abrasive is gonna rub off smaller pieces of this, right, and it's gonna make it smooth over time.
Yeah.
How does one put data? How the fuck, like a song? How do you put that on a wave?
Yeah. So inside the radios is usually some kind of, and this is a little older style, I guess. They call it a crystal radio, where they use a crystal that sets a reference, that basically it's a little rock that constantly is outputting a little wave constantly.
What?
And it's in the radio, and they use that as a reference for time. And let's say they take that signal and adjust it to the frequency that you want. And that's creating that 100.3, let's just say, waving out in the radio signal. You have another transistor that's injecting into that to put your data onto that signal. So that transistor is flicking back and forth to 0 or 1 to whatever data you're putting in to put it onto that signal to get sent out. That's a very simple way of putting it, but
so the data that you're putting on there, is it like you said 0 to 1, so it's binary?
Not if it's it could be analog or digital. That's where it gets different, the different types of data that it's carrying. Analog is just straight analog audio being transferred over the wave. And that's where you hear a lot more of the static, like you were talking about AM.
Okay.
Analog, you hear a lot more static. Digital, it's converting your voice, your audio going into the microphone into 0 and 1s, and then transmitting the 0 and 1s, which are then decoded. And that's what most police departments or most radios use now. Sounds a lot clearer, sounds a lot crisper. That's digital. If it's analog, you hear a lot more of that noise, but a lot of people like the analog audio better. Like, analog music, like, how people like audiophiles like the the analog tubes, and they use the headset because they like the analog music.
Like people who prefer vinyl over something.
Yes. So a lot of people prefer analog radio over digital radio, just because, especially as you're going out of coverage, you can kind of hear, as you're going out of range, is more and more static as your signal's getting weaker and weaker as you're going further and further away. But with digital, as long as you're able to get into that radio and decode the signal coming in, you're going to sound the same because it's 0 and 1s. As long as it's getting the signal and decoding it, you're going to sound exactly the same until you drop off the coverage level.
So the only way I guess there's no proximity in terms of like, I guess there is, but it's much harder because like you'd have a constant feedback and by the strength of it, like the static you're saying, you know, if you're farther or
you kind of know that you're getting like, oh, you can barely hear me. I know I got to come closer in order for you to.
Okay, and then while the other one, that makes sense what you're saying, it's just a signal cutoff. You're no longer receiving that code to decode.
Yes.
I'm just so fat. I didn't know there was a fucking. Sense? Yeah, it does. It does. I didn't know that there was a rock inside of every little radio, whatever it is. Like, what type of rock? What is the material that's actually? Does it change? Can you use different material?
To change the frequency, they use certain materials to make if it's really, really low frequency, it might be a certain type. If it's medium frequency, you use a different one. Like there's many different frequencies. Like when you listen to the radio, that's 100.3 megahertz. Mm-hmm. Some of the stuff that some different stuff we work on, like your cell phone, could go up to 5 gigahertz. That's a whole different order of magnitude of frequencies per second. Mm-hmm. But the higher you get in frequency, that's when your range starts to really decrease. Like with 5G, you don't have nearly as much range with 5G as you do with 4G, just because you have to be closer to the tower. It's higher frequency, it's more data per second. But 4G, it's lower frequency, it's less data per second, but you can reach out a little further. I'm spitting out a lot of information.
Oh my God, this is so insane. This is so insane because you started getting into topics right now that I had actually wrote. One of the things I wanted to talk about was 5G.
Mhm.
So
Oh,
I was
really?
I swear to God, I was gonna ask you, what do you, if, well, you, obviously now you know,
Mhm.
because I didn't know if 5G was related to radio. That's how stupid I'm just looking at, oh, cell phone tower says 5G, so I'm good, higher connection, like very very stupid,
Yeah.
very simple rudimentary understanding of this shit, whatever, right?
Yeah.
What is the difference between 4G and 5G? You're saying gigahertz per
It's the
second?
difference in frequency. It's basically it's the generation of radio, but 4G is operating on certain bands of frequency. Like, when you listen to the car radio, it's usually with like 90 point something to 100 point something. That's the frequency range that radio stations are allowed to be in. That's why you tune to that range. Cell phones have a certain range that they operate in. 4G was a certain band of frequencies. 5G is a higher frequency band, but a higher chunk of higher frequency.
So why is it that, oh, it's only now being implemented? Is it that we didn't have the technologies previously to tap into those higher frequencies?
Yeah, because the antennas it's a lot harder to make. With 5G antennas, it's so much higher frequency. You're dealing with so many other signals, and it's just so much, like they have the 5G. I don't know if you've ever seen a 5G antenna array. It's like,
No.
maybe it could be like the size of this table, where it's a bunch of antennas in a sheet where you wouldn't even be able to see them. But say you're standing on the other corner of the room, it'll automatically adjust all the antennas inside of it to form the waves to you, to make sure all the signal gets to you, because it knows where you are and how to shape the antenna to get to you, to prioritize you, because that's where it knows there's nobody else connected over there, so it directs the energy towards you.
Okay, so what about, holy shit.
That's a lot of different things I just
Yeah, but it's so fascinating. So like you're telling me that so underneath the sheet there's a bunch, presumably like what, 100,000s, hundred
could be
thousands.
thousands. Yeah.
Okay, so thousands of these very small, like probably microscopic antennas, right?
Yeah. Yep.
And when you say they switch angles, you're saying that they're like, I'm imagining in my head little pins.
Mm-hmm. They don't physically change. Some of them do, but that's very rare. But they don't physically change their shape or which way they're pointing, but the electrical characteristics inside, it'll tune to a different characteristic to force the energy in a certain direction.
Okay, so this is all manipulated. When you say
Yes.
tuning, it's
Yeah.
all manipulated with changing, I guess, power input or what?
Power input to it'll vary. It's an array, so each little antenna has a separate connection. Maybe it'll vary the input going to a certain side. It might, if you're on that corner, it might put all of them onto that one corner of the antenna. If you're over here, it might only activate these ones and shape it a certain way. I don't do very much work in that. I've seen a lot of videos on that. It's
Okay.
really interesting.
Okay, so now I guess by the way you're explaining it, the way I'm visualizing it is kind of like if you have like a bunch of on and off switches, light
Mhm.
bulbs, and you're saying that it doesn't change physically, but you can manipulate which part of the table gets
Yeah.
the energy, and
Like
then
if
they
you have
turn
all
on.
the lights bulbs on at once,
It's just fucking
it's
shooting
just
out
shooting everything. But then
Okay.
if you only want to shine the light over there,
that corner gets.
yeah,
That
and you get
quadrant
all
gets
the
all the
data
energy.
that was going through everything now is only going through those.
Okay, now I'm understanding a lot better what you're trying to. Okay,
Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
getting
yeah.
what you're saying. That is very, very fascinating. I
Yeah.
did not understand that radio. I guess radio technology was this.
Well, radio's your cell phone. It's everything. Like usually when you say radio, people are like, oh, you're talking on a walkie-talkie.
So that's
in
what
Walmart.
I assumed. That's what I'm trying to
Let's-
say. Like I just
yeah,
assumed that
it's-
very stupidly that
No.
radio is just it's
No.
literally just a radio. That's it. But this technology
Yeah.
applies to so many
it's the
different.
same idea. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so now that you kind of went over that, right?
Mhm.
I guess like the way it's applied in real life.
Mhm.
So the materials that we have gathered and done a lot of research on
Mhm.
have led to discoveries that then allow us to, I guess, upgrade into the 5th generation of radio,
Yes.
hence 5G.
Yes.
Right?
Yep.
So what is like this is an element of like a little bit of whatever the preliminary research I did that I was telling you about. The thing I'm actually really curious about is how different materials have different effects on like radio technology. Do you know much about that space, like in terms of antennas, right?
Yeah.
Because I know your formal education and your background is specialty in antennas, and
Yeah.
like you said, research in antennas, right?
The
So
3D printed antennas. Yeah.
so 3D printing antennas. So that's
Yeah.
what's interesting. What material do you use to 3D print an antenna?
So I guess technically I didn't 3D print the antenna. I 3D printed the antenna ground plane, the ground that the antenna was using. So if you think of a vehicle like a police car, you have the antenna sticking on the top
this
of it.
thing's
I'm
sagging.
sorry. Oh,
No,
did
no.
it?
Yeah, you got to just turn that.
There you go.
thing. Yep.
Sorry.
No, you're good. That was on me. I didn't even notice. So go ahead. What were you saying? Sorry.
So you see an antenna on the top of a police car.
Yeah.
The ground plane for that antenna is the car. Like if it's on a building, it's fixed on a building. The whole ground could be you connect it to the ground system. It's a much larger one for the building. But if it's on a vehicle, there's only a limited amount of physical ground that you can have, and it's that vehicle. It's the chassis, the metal of the vehicle. My research was you have a fixed antenna. I think it was just like it wasn't a paper clip, but it was a piece of coaxial cable I stripped away, leaving a certain distance exposed. That was my antenna. The antennas are just a piece of wire. Like you can get a coat hanger and stretch it out, and you have an antenna for some low frequency. It's just a wire. So I kept the wire the same length for my research, and I 3D printed different shapes to have the antenna mounted to, and electroplated them to make them conductive, because plastic isn't conductive. It has to be a ground, something metallic. And I mounted the antenna through the metallic ground and would see how the antenna characteristics would change with different shapes. So like I did a flat plane, like just a plane with the antenna sticking through it. I did a sphere with the antenna sticking through it. I did a golf ball with all like the little divots with the sphere sticking through it, all different shapes, to see how it would change the antenna characteristics for basically any antenna mounted on some kind of vehicle, whether it's a car or a satellite, anything that's limited in shape. Mm-hmm. If you can change the characteristics of that shape to make your antenna work better, that's pretty much what I was trying to find out.
And was there any impact?
Yeah, keeping the antenna exactly the same and changing the shape, I was able to double the gain of the antenna, which was changing the radiation characteristics of it. I was able to double the bandwidth of the antenna, which is changing the operating frequency of which the antenna can work, which those are a lot of pretty interesting changes to make without physically changing the antenna itself, just changing what the antenna is mounted to.
Okay, so a concept that you were that was all throughout the explanation you just gave was this concept of grounding.
Yes.
So why is grounding important, and can you explain what grounding is?
So it's two different real types that we're talking about here. Electrical grounding is like, when you're connecting a circuit and you got to ground it for safety. That's an electrical ground. Like if you have to ground your dryer in your house, because if you have a fault in the connection and then the chassis of the dryer is live and you touch it and you get zapped, that could kill you. But if it's grounded, if it touches the chassis, it'll direct it to ground, which then dumps the energy so that you're safe. A RF ground is similar in that case, but in the way that I'm describing it, the antenna is on the roof of the vehicle. The ground is kind of acting as a reflector for the antenna, so that when the antenna on the top, like if this is the car and the antenna is on top of it, mm-hmm. the antenna is radiating. It uses the ground beneath it as almost as a reflector to send the waves out further. And it's not the same ground as an electrical ground as you would normally think.
Wait, so the antenna is, when you say radiating, is it attracting into it or is it outputting? I'm assuming it's attracting.
Both.
It's both.
Well, it doesn't attract. Like you don't turn it on and it pulls the waves in, but any wire that you have is acting as an antenna at any given time. Like these wires sitting on the table are receiving radio waves going through it, but there's nothing connected to it to know what to do with.
Okay, so
if that makes sense.
It does, but like radio waves are. Explain radio waves.
It's an electromagnetic wave traveling through the air. So you can make an electromagnetic wave. It's a disturbance in either the magnetic or electrical realm, and those are related. So if you do one, it's going to do the other. So if you had a 9-volt battery and you had a penny and you were like sparking it on the battery, mm-hmm. every time it sparked, that would send an electromagnetic pulse out. And if you did it 60 times a second, that would be a 60 hertz wave going out. When at 100 megahertz, it's sparking it 100 million times a second, and that wave travels out into space and that other wire at the other end is picking that energy up and decoding what's on it. And the antenna, depending on the length, you make it resonant for whatever frequency you're looking for. It gets very good at catching which it's resonant. If it's resonant, it's like naturally kind of attracting to that length, or I don't know how to describe that. It's like if you ever play with those tuning forks in science class, when you
hit something, it's like, and then you can do something that goes.
Those ring at a certain frequency, right? It's the same idea with the antenna. You have if you want to ring at 100 megahertz, you have to have the antenna at around this length, and it'll ring at that frequency. So if an 100 megahertz signal is flying by, you're gonna pick it up. If that makes sense.
Holy shit!
Like, do you ever try that with two tuning forks? If you hold them next to each other, the other one will start kind of shaking. Did you ever see that?
I've never seen that.
If you have two tuning forks that are the same frequency and you hit one and you hold, and the other one's not shaking, you hold them next to each other, the other one will start to shake. And that's the same idea.
So, okay. So now that you're giving me, I guess, something that is more in the realm of my understanding with the example of the tuning forks, that's why you didn't say it's doing both, is because when of the same frequency tuning fork, one is moving because you just hit it, and the other one is still.
Yep.
And you move them closer together.
Yep.
This one will start shaking even though you didn't hit it.
Yep.
And that's both because it's outputting, but it's also so it's outputting and receiving the input from the same frequency from the other tuning fork.
Yes.
And the other tuning fork, even though this one didn't have any, like, I guess for the metaphor of what we're talking about, electricity or power behind it by you hitting it.
Yep.
So it didn't even need that for it to,
correct.
Which is why, in a fucking coat hanger, you don't need to plug it into anything. You could just have it, and it will be picking up on whatever low frequency.
And then you just have to plug it into a radio or whatever. You
something to decode it.
Yes.
But it's still picking up. You just don't have anything to actually extract that information.
And the amount of energy that is, like maybe for a radio, like for a amateur radio, like I play with amateur ham radios all the time. A portable, you're putting out 5 watts of power. When you're trying to receive a signal, you could be receiving a signal as small as 0.00001 volts. Like that's the amplitude of the signal, and you're still getting the data that's on that
wave.
Yes.
Even though it's so
it's
low.
so small. Yes.
Wow.
Yes.
That's fucking crazy.
But that's where it comes into tuning. Like for filtering, you want to be able to, if you know what frequency you're looking for, you want to put a filter to get everything else out of view so that it's not impeding what you're trying to look for.
Okay.
And in this area, that's difficult, especially close to New York City, because there's so many people transmitting illegally, or there's just so many people transmitting in general that there's so much noise that you need a good amount of power to overcome that noise and even in order to be heard.
Okay. So theoretically, so now I guess this is a little aside because you just that just sparked an interesting question in my head. Theoretically, if you had too much noise like that, would it just become essentially like a race of power?
Yeah.
So then it just becomes an order of power.
Yeah.
And if that game starts happening, it literally will just become, oh no, we just need more generators to produce more electrical input in order to overcome. Like, that really?
Well, that's why the FCC is.
They regulate that.
They regulate it. If somebody's doing something illegally and somebody complains, they'll come knocking on your door and
that is so fucking fascinating. Okay, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
That's really interesting. So so they know that people like it'll just become a madhouse if it's not regulated, because then it just becomes a fucking like the opens Pandora's box.
It is still in, like, especially in the city. There's so many people transmitting illegally, and there's so many people doing it. It's just there's no way you can catch them all. And it's going to happen, and you have to prepare for it to happen.
When you say transmitting illegally, what do you like? Can you unpack that a little bit? What does that mean?
For anybody, even him, if you're under a certain power, maybe you don't need a license. If it's under 1 watt for certain frequencies, you don't need a license technically to transmit. But above 1 watt, really, at certain frequencies, really you want to use, you need to have a license to do that. So you need to put an application together saying, I want to transmit at this address at an antenna at 50 feet tall on frequency 500 on 50 watts. And you submit that to the FCC, and they'll say, yes, you're allowed to do that, or no, you're not, because there's these people in your area that are
doing that.
Either on your frequency or on a neighboring frequency, and you're not allowed to. And there's no frequencies left in this area. Like VHF, which is the 100, like around like 100 to 170 megahertz.
Okay.
UHF is like 400 to 500, or it goes much more higher than that. But there's really no available radio channels in this area with how many people that are using it legally and also illegally. But
So it's just an oversaturated, like, I guess, market of frequencies.
yes,
Because this is a finite thing. It's not just
it's
like
the
infinite.
spectrum of frequencies is a finite resource. Yes.
Okay, is it finite because... Oh, okay. Is it finite because we are unable to access the very, very, I guess, like low, like the tail ends of the spectrum? We don't currently have that technology, or is it finite because it literally just is finite in its
It literally
in itself?
just is. I mean, I guess you could technically keep going up in frequency forever, but now that with 5G, especially like with certain 5G cells that are really, really high frequency, like in some cities, if you go more than a block or two away from the transmitter, you lose connection. Like as I was saying before, you go higher in frequency, you lose range. So there comes a point where you don't want to go higher in frequency because you have no range at that point.
Oh, so realistically, we're capped off in use.
Yes.
Like we wouldn't, there would be no use for something so high frequency, because then for our purposes of its use, the range is shit.
Yes. But
And
maybe you'd use that for a chip inside of your Intel CPU instead, like 3.4 gigahertz CPU. When you hear about like that, that's the same idea. But
Okay,
in a chip.
now because
But-
okay, so now it's localized, so the range is bad, but it's localized and it's a very
And literally a chip like that. So,
powerful processing unit within
Yeah.
just the, I guess, area
yes.
in space that chip takes up.
Yes.
Holy fuck, that's mind blowing. You just blew my mind. I didn't even know that all that was even tied together.
It's
Okay.
not like the chips it's not doing radio transmissions in the chip, but it's the same idea with frequency. and stuff
Conceptually,
like-
yeah, I get what you're saying.
Yeah.
So okay, so then now my question is, when you were saying, so I'm assuming now,
Mhm.
based off of what you said, that the higher the frequency, the more data that you can
Yes.
put on that frequency.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Which is why, I guess, if you think about it like oh no, that's not a good metaphor. I guess it's like it becomes too heavy at a certain point,
Mhm.
because there's the higher the frequency
Yeah.
with so much data
Yeah.
that it drops off, like the range of it tapers off quicker.
Yes. Yes.
Because it's not as light and floaty as maybe the lower frequencies, because
Yes.
you can't put as much on it, but it has more of a
you
range.
can go further. Yes. Yeah.
So it's literally like how much weight, like
It's what do you need to carry? Are you trying to download a movie at 4K from Siberia, or are you just trying to send a text message that's 3 characters long to your neighbor down the street? Like those are two different payloads. It depends what you're trying to do.
so now in terms of space traversal,
Mhm.
this is why a problem exists with like communications between Earthlings, and then assuming you get like a manned vehicle and you just shoot that motherfucker off into like the deep void of space. The farther and farther away you get, the more and more problematic
Well, in space, you're in a vacuum. So technically, if you transmit something in space, it can go on forever in a vacuum because there's no losses taking the power away from the signal. Here on Earth, going through air or through water, it's called free space path loss, where basically your signal strength drops very, very fast as soon as you leave the antenna. Like, remember I said before, like a 5-watt antenna? Say this water bottle was a 5-watt antenna and I'm this close to it, I would probably be receiving 0.01 watts of power this close to it. Like your power drops off
very,
very
significant.
quickly, but you're able to pick it up. You're very sensitive, so you're able to pick it up very far out. But if you're in space where there's no loss, you can transmit the 5-watt signal and it'll keep going 5 watts until it hits something that'll make a loss, like a cloud or a gas, and it'll diffract it and then it loses signal. But technically, transmissions that get into space are just keeping going. That's what they say. Like aliens might hear it one day and maybe they're trying to respond. They'll hear a transmission from 50 years ago.
And it could be as dense, as high frequency of a transmission, but just because of the fact that there's nothing in its way, it could just keep going on.
Or it could be a low frequency transmission, like low band, like we were talking about 100.3. That's a frequency. Low band is like 30 megahertz. And that's where people use to talk around the world with each other on radio. Like you can have an antenna tuned to 30 megahertz on a base station and talk to somebody in China from an antenna that's sitting on your deck, and talk to somebody across the world on it.
Okay. So this is
because
why,
it could travel much further because it's such low frequency.
which is why if you don't have, I guess, like cable, like
Mhm.
some sort of actual cable, like let's say you're making a fucking house in like
Yeah.
the remote rural areas of Montana or whatever.
Yep.
it's harder to get the data for a picture, the audio, TV basically,
Mm-hmm.
rather than just having whatever you're referring to, the low frequency 30
Yeah.
megahertz per second.
That was really for audio. People just talk on that.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's way too low a frequency to put any data on. Yeah.
Because like video, but
Yeah,
because
it would
it's
take-
low, it's too low. You
Yep.
can't put as much data with, meaning the
Exactly.
package of audio, video, all that
Yes.
stuff. So you need
Yes.
higher frequencies, but the range is shittier.
Yes.
Now this is all
That's like
making
that's like the
sense.
trade-off of how you have to. Yeah.
See, so but like the reason I'm so fascinated by this is because now I'm understanding the way the rules, or the reason why like certain, I guess, like seemingly arbitrary rules
Yeah.
exist.
Yep.
Like the rule that it's not really a rule, or I guess like science, a rule in science.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, you're building a fucking house. We don't have any cable like infrastructure set up in that area, so you're gonna have to use satellite, which is why the picture isn't as clear.
Yep.
Because you can't. It's not a physical connection, so
Yep.
you have to rely on frequency.
Yep.
And you can only put so much. You're limited by the data you could put on that frequency because
Yes.
of the range and
The Starlink
amplitude.
is getting pretty impressive with that. What's nice about that is as long as you can see the sky, there's nothing between you and the antenna except for air. Like when you're trying to talk to a cell tower, the tower might be 10 miles away this way, but there's a hill in the way and 20 million trees blocking you in the tower, which gives you poor signal. But if you're trying to talk to a satellite to give you internet, it's up. As long as you can see the sky pretty clearly, you have a straight path to that antenna, and it's just air.
So they're
that's
just
the
launching
loss.
satellites to form like a grid, which at any
Yes.
moment you could just ping up that way and it
Yes.
comes back down.
Yes.
So it's like a shield. Oh my God. It's a fucking satellite reflector of like what you were working on around the globe. Like
Pretty
around
much,
Earth.
yeah.
right?
There's a ton of them that if it's over your head, you can access it and get data from it. Yeah.
Right? Like theoretically, because you were explaining like the structure that you were 3D printing.
Yes.
The shape of it impacts when the antenna goes off, like where it sends. It's kind of like light. If
Mhm.
you have a mirror under you, that's why
Yeah.
people, when they suntan, put a mirror under them because it
Yes.
bounces off under, then back up at them.
Yep.
So that can change
yeah.
the actual. Yo, you're blowing my fucking mind. This is sick. Holy shit.
Or like the microwave stuff is kind of cool. That's really high frequency. Like that could be 18 gigahertz in that range. Like that microwave stuff like that is used for high data transmission rates. Like if you want to wirelessly transmit data pretty quickly. Like say you had your shed over there and you wanted to get internet in it, but you didn't want to run a cable physically to it. You have a little dish on your house here. You have a little dish on your house there. A little 18 gigahertz tunnel is in between them, and high speed data transfer between the two.
Because it's just air that has to go through.
Yeah, and it's basically like you're plugging in an Ethernet cable at either end, but through the air.
Okay. So now, oh my God. Now, will that fuck up anything with the microwave that I have over here?
No.
Or it's not because it's insulated in that box?
No, yeah,
Or-
you won't do anything. Yeah, it'll be
But
fine.
when you're saying microwave, it is the same microwave as.
It's the same microwave frequencies. That's why it's called a microwave, because it operates at microwave frequencies, which is a certain band in the frequency spectrum.
Mhm.
But microwaves for RF transmission also happen to operate on that frequency for data transfers. Yeah, but it's used in a different way for microwaves. It's used to heat food.
So I understand that the way it works is like, I guess from my rudimentary understanding, it's like the microwave that's shot out inside of this metal box
Mhm.
hits the water molecules. And because it's hitting them at a certain
Yeah.
frequency, it
Yeah.
causes them to vibrate, which is therefore
Yeah.
kinetic energy. So it heats up the food.
Yes. If you
How-
stood in front of one of those microwave dishes that I'm talking about,
Yeah.
it would do the same thing to you.
Okay, so
you
that's
do not
what-
want to stand in front of one
Okay,
of
so
them.
they're hazardous.
Yes.
So that is what I was.
Yes.
So okay, so
Yes.
see, this is why I was asking, because it
different
blows my mind.
application of the frequency. Yeah.
But it still has the same effect.
Yes.
So anything theoretically with water. Oh my God! So what the fuck would happen if you had like what you were saying, two dishes like that, and you put something metal in between them?
Oh, it wouldn't work.
Because
mean,
it just bounces off.
Yeah,
right?
it just totally. Yeah, it would reflect them in neither direction. Neither one would receive. Yeah.
Now, how far away would you have to be from that? I guess the reflection of that from the metal for it to not have any like thermic effect on you
I mean, if you're,
or thermal.
you don't want to be 10 feet next to the antenna, but if you're 50 feet, 100 feet
So
away
it
from
dissipates pretty quickly. Like
yeah, it
what you were
dissipates
saying
pretty
before,
quickly,
like
but you
with
definitely shouldn't be in the path of it. Yeah, it dissipates pretty quickly, but you don't want to be in the path.
just because it's hazardous to have
Yeah, you
those
don't-
waves going through your
Yeah,
body.
I mean, it's not ionizing radiation like when you're talking about radioactive radiation.
Yeah.
It's not like that, but yeah, you don't want that going through you. But like with a radio in your phone or like, you don't have to worry about that. That's not that type of stuff.
So, okay, so what is the real use applications of these like these microwave what's the you have a
Yeah.
receiver,
Mhm.
and then you have a transmitter.
Mhm.
So what is the real use, if they're hazardous, what is the real use application of those?
To extend a private network wirelessly where you wouldn't have physical network otherwise. Like kind of like I just said, like say you had a house and you had a guest house down this 100 feet down that way, and there was no internet to it, and you wanted to get internet there. You mount one dish on your roof there, one dish on your roof on your other house. Now you have an internet connection.
But
to
it
the other building.
specifies like you can't get in front of this shit. Like don't put living. So I'm thinking like military bases, you have the main base and then you have like maybe the security outpost,
Mhm.
and they need to be on the same network like what you're talking
Yep.
about. So that's where they're connected
Yeah.
via that.
Yep.
Holy
It could
shit.
be.
So what happens if a bird flies through?
Yeah, it'll be all right because it's probably just for like a fraction of a second.
But no, I'm not. Oh, so if you keep something in front of that shit, it'll cook. Like it'll
I mean, maybe if you're right in front of it.
I'm talking about like right in front. It would actually cook.
Maybe. No, I doubt it. No, I don't think so. It probably would be uncomfortable, but you probably wouldn't see it like start to boil or something. No, but it wouldn't be. Yeah.
Like what would you? Okay, so now I'm thinking like what would you?
Well, there's
feel if you were
there's RF burns. Like that's a different type of like a radio burn is a different type of burn. Like when you touch a hot stove and your whole pot, or if you touch your finger on your stove, your whole finger gets blistered up.
Yeah.
If you touch if you took the antenna off of a radio and put your finger on the antenna and transmitted, you'd get an RF burn, which is basically the same type of burn as if you touching the stove, except it's 3D. However, it transmitted through your body or whatever. So it's like the cells inside of your finger get burned. It could be a third or second degree burn, just like a normal burn, but it's a 3D burn, if that makes sense.
It does make sense.
Yeah.
Because I know what you're saying. It's I guess like a stove is thermal energy.
Yeah.
And it's like right there, and it's being
Whatever you're
hindered by
touching.
whatever you're touching, right?
But whatever the antenna, however it's radiating.
Like the pathway of its radiation.
Yes.
So if I stick my hand, and let's say we have like a fucking circle.
Yep.
And it's really, really, really intense microwaves.
Yep.
Which I guess what would that be? The higher power.
Yeah.
Which is the wattage?
Wattage, yes.
So a higher wattage.
At higher frequency, yeah.
At higher frequency.
With that combination. Yeah.
And you have like a little fucking hole like this.
Yeah.
And you put your hand through it. It's not just whatever side that the transmitter is coming from. Like it's not just going to be burned on this side.
Nope.
It'll be burned through and through whatever the fuck was on in that pathway.
Yes.
Yo, so if you get an RF burn, you'd have to amputate. Like there's no.
I mean, it's like a regular third degree or second degree burn, except the pain's going to be through your entire limb or whatever it is. It's going to feel really, really bad.
Fuck that. Are there, like, when you went to school for this, did they ever give you like any horror stories of like in terms of warning?
No, not really, honestly.
So no one's gotten super, super fucked up from, like, no one's died from like this type of
Maybe
stuff.
like we were talking about AM and FM before. The towers, an AM tower is the antenna. An FM tower, you're mounting antennas to the metal structure, and that's the antenna. The AM tower, the entire tower is the antenna. If you touched an AM tower that's transmitting at 3 kilowatts, you're dead. And that's probably just because of the 3 kilowatts of energy that's traveling through you. Maybe not.
The whole thing's fucking. The whole sucker's electrocuted.
Yeah.
And
I don't know if with especially amplitude modulation, I don't know if you've ever seen one of those videos online. The ground that's connected, like we were talking about grounds before, there's a ground connected to the tower. If you interrupt that ground and put and it starts to arc, like, you've seen wires arc before.
Yeah, like
if you had it arc, you would hear whatever they're playing a radio or music, whatever on the amplitude modulated radio, the arc, you would hear the audio coming out of the arc when it's going to ground.
How the fuck does that work?
Because it's amplitude modulation. It's just so
it doesn't work with FM because there's no
because it's just changing the timing of it. But with amplitude, it's physically changing the volume of the.
So that's why
signal.
you don't need a decoder.
Yeah,
that's why you just need to interrupt the grounding.
Yeah, if you can hear it in the arc and you'll hear the music. I mean, it won't sound great, but you can.
But you hear it.
Yes,
that's fucking crazy.
Yeah,
okay, wait, hold on. So this is why for AM towers, there's a giant fence around like these facilities.
Yes,
because if you fucking touch it, you're die.
Done. Yeah.
Now, what about the ground that it's built on?
Mm-hmm.
Right. You said if you interrupt that grounding.
Yeah.
Towers
are built in very specific ways where there's like a ground ring under the tower where there's like if this is the tower underneath it, there's like a ring of copper there's very specific points where it has to make contact in order to make a safe grounding point so that if lightning struck the tower, it would bring all the energy into the ground and dissipate it, hopefully.
When you say ground, you mean raw earth?
Yes,
like
literally the ground.
So there's a point where someone takes a copper.
A ground, like when you ground something, if we're grounding whatever we're grounding, an antenna or something, you drive a ground rod into the ground. It's a 4-foot piece of copper that you're just whacking into the ground, and then that's the ground.
So why does it have to be 4 feet? You just need enough
With the
ground?
It needs to have enough surface area, and you want it to be deep enough. And yeah.
So theoretically, that's why if you're wearing rubber soled shoes and you get electric, you're fucked. But if you were to maybe be buried halfway, like in dirt, and you get electrocuted, maybe you don't get harmed because your body would just be.
If you're wearing rubber shoes, you'd be safer because you're not making contact with the ground where the energy wants to go. But if you're touching the ground,
so it's an open circuit versus a closed circuit.
Yes.
So if you're touching the ground and you're buried, you're even more of a closed circuit.
You're in the ground.
Pathway for the fucking energy. To go
probably
through.
It wouldn't go to you because it's probably going to go it's going to the least resistance path. It would probably just hit the ground next to you. Going through you have a lot of water. We're made up of water that's very resistive. If you're sitting in the ground, it'd probably just strike next to you. It wouldn't touch you. But that's why, like, if a thunderstorm's coming through and you're in the middle of a field, they say to lie on the ground to get as close and flat to the ground as possible so that it doesn't strike you. It's going to take the path. It doesn't
recognize you as the
path. It's
going
to go to the path. Resistance. Yeah, exactly.
What's up with the thing of trees? You don't want to be near trees during a lightning storm too, right?
They're also very tall, and they'll strike that as being the closer path to ground.
If you're near that, you're also going to get a little bit of that zappage.
Oh yeah.
Oh my god,
lightning is a lot of energy. Like it'll just melt. It'll melt steel like nothing.
Okay, so lightning has all this energy because there's a negative charge to the Earth.
That's collecting in the cloud.
The negative is in the cloud, or the positive is in the cloud?
That's where there's convention. That's a debate that a lot of people have still. Whether the conventional and
I always thought that it was generally accepted, or the way.
That's the way it is accepted. Yes,
like taught in school.
Yes, that is the way.
Is that the Earth is negative and whatever is going up in the cloud that's positive.
That's the way it's taught. Yes.
Energy accumulation.
But there is a lot of arguments that it's the other way around. But yes.
So what is the conspiracy theory behind this shit? Now, can you explain that?
Of whether the electrons are actually flowing in the circuit, or if the electrons are just like nudging each other and transferring their energy down. It's a weird argument. It's not worth like getting hung up onto. It's just like pick one and just stick.
But the end result's the same.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So it's this giant, I guess, like difference between the two that causes
and the energy is trying to go somewhere. Like it's looking for, where can I dump this energy?
And it's building up.
It's going to go to the tree, or if it's you, it's going to dump it through you, or until it builds up strong enough to be able to just go to the ground itself.
Which is the lightning bolt.
Yes, touching the ground.
So theoretically, so what causes the accumulation of energy in a cloud? Do you know that?
I think it's whatever type of air is circulating up there. Like, when you if you holding a balloon, you rub it against the carpet and you stick it to the wall. It's like the electrons that you took off that
static electricity.
It's the same idea, except it's building up in the cloud.
So it's just the air moving with each other. It's passing off little electrons and they're just being disturbed, I guess.
And building up here until they have to be dissipated somewhere. And that's how, and then it gets dissipated.
So theoretically, you'd have more lightning strikes in a wooded forest than just a barren ass field.
Depends on. I think it's more weather dependent.
Okay.
The type of or the atmospheric conditions, or how the atmosphere is made up.
I guess the reason I'm asking that question is because you said it's going to look for the path of least resistance.
Yes.
Right.
That's just electricity in general. That's all it does.
Yeah,
yes.
but or until it builds up enough power where it just has enough juice to connect to the ground.
Yes.
So. That made me think, if you have more, I guess, like trees, which make the distance shorter, you have more paths of least resistance, which will allow more dissipation of energy more frequently.
Yeah.
So you would have more lightning strikes?
I guess technically, yes.
That's what the?
I guess technically.
Or, but then maybe.
But that the trees aren't causing the lightning strikes. It would give more opportunity for lightning strikes, but it's not causing the lightning strike. Like, if the conditions are right and it keeps wanting to strike, it will strike more often, but the trees aren't causing it.
Okay. The thing that's causing is just the accumulation of energy in the cloud.
Yeah, whatever's the atmosphere.
The air circulation.
Yeah, whatever's causing it.
Oh, wow. So we're learning about fucking radio technology and meteorology in this bitch. This is crazy, bro. You see what? This is so fucking fascinating. All right, so okay, so what were we talking about just before I took us on that little fucking rabbit hole with lightning? Oh my god. Oh, microwaves.
Yes.
Okay, so we're talking about microwaves. antennas,
Mhm.
you said there's not really like I asked you about the material science behind the antenna, and
Yep.
you said it wasn't actually what the antenna is made out of. It's the structure
Yeah.
that you ground the antenna with.
Depending on the type of antenna, there's a million different types of antenna. The antenna mounted to a vehicle is typically called like a half dipole antenna, where like if that's your vehicle, the part sticking up is half of your dipole, which your dipole is your antenna. The other half is your ground plane, which is your vehicle. But that just happens to be that type of antenna we're usually mounted onto vehicles because of the space limitations.
So what?
But on a tower, you might have it's going to be a bigger antenna, but you don't need any kind of ground reflection or anything because the antenna is big enough to be able to operate without it.
Okay, got you. So it'd just be unnecessary if you had that thing to reflect the whatever's being.
Yeah, on a tower, yeah.
Okay, so then when you're talking about different types of antenna, what dictates the type of antenna? Just the size of it?
Usually the application and what it's being used for and where it's going. Like in your phone, the antenna is literally a piece of wire in the chip. Like it's maybe a circle because of a flat circle in there and it can't be much bigger. But the antenna on a radio is a little stick coming out the top of it. But then the antenna on a tower could be either a big metal tube or it could be, I don't know if you've ever seen the TV antennas on the roof that look like a chainsaw. It's called like a Yagi antenna. That's like a beam pointing in one direction. But depending on if you want to radiate in 360 degrees evenly, or if you want to focus all the energy onto one path, or if you're putting an antenna in the building for your Wi-Fi, it all depends on how you're applying it, where it's being used, and what it's being used for. There's so many different kinds of antennas.
So does the material that the antenna is made out of have any impact on it, or do you?
Yes, it does, because the way that the electromagnetic wave travels through the material changes depending on the material. If you have the room to make something that's like, if you have a big antenna and you can afford to have a big chunk of steel in there, that'll be very good for the antenna. You could do it. But if it's in your phone, you can't do that. So you have to make a smaller antenna that might be a different style, a different type, that has different advantages, and you have to apply it to the application that you have.
Okay, got you. So when we're talking about these technologies, what does like the future for these technologies look like? Like, I guess I'm asking that because like AI, it started off very silly, obviously. Like everyone knows what an AI picture looks like, but then now AI, like it's uses in like, medical diagnosis. If you look at blood work, stuff like that. So like, what does the future for radio technology look like?
Radio is definitely, everybody thinks as being so old, and like people, I can't believe you're using a walkie-talkie anymore. It's never going to go away just because it's so reliable and you're in control of it. Like if it breaks, you can go and fix it tomorrow. But the future of it, I would say that the modulation types are going to get more complex, where you can put more data onto a frequency that you couldn't before. Like the types of modulation are going to change, where you can be more efficient in the data that you're putting on it. You can decode it faster, or you can encode it faster. And I think there's going to be a lot more applications for radio that we've never seen before. Like radios are used to monitor the levels in water tanks to see, is it 3/4 of the way full from the radio? So you don't have to go there and check it. Okay, flip this on so we can fill it up to full.
And how does it do that? It shoots like evenly throughout, and it tells where there's more resistance.
On those types of radios, usually there's a sensor that's detecting the pressure coming out of the bottom of the tank, and from the pressure you can determine how full it is, and that pressure reading is put onto the radio as the data,
and then that's transmitted.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but then also like on ambulances, even 20 or 30 years ago, there were ambulances where if you were having a heart attack and you were on the ambulance, they can give you an EKG on the ambulance and transmit the data via radio back to the hospital for the doctor to look at as you're pulling in. 30 years ago, that was happening.
Oh, hold on. When they give you, so they're getting readings from your vitals and stuff.
Like you go for like if you're having a heart attack and they got to do a reading on your chest.
Yeah.
And in an ambulance on your way to the hospital, they can do the reading, send the data. I mean, now we have cell phones. We could do it through cell coverage now too. But back then they did it on a radio and sent it back to the hospital for the doctor to review before you even came into the hospital.
So you said we could do it through cell phones now,
yeah.
Right? What is cell phones
enable internet connections wirelessly very easily now. You can get a cell modem tomorrow and put it out in your shed. Like, remember how I was saying, oh, I want internet in the shed.
Mm-hmm.
Rather than putting a microwave on this house to send it over there, you can get a cell modem, put the antenna on the roof, and it would connect to the same cell network that you do with your phone, but just provide an internet connection the same way. Except you're not using it to make a call. You're just making it to get internet the same way you search a web page on your phone. It makes it very simple. Cell is very accessible now.
Okay.
But like if it broke, if the cell site went down, you have to call Verizon or AT&T and wait for them to fix it. It's not like you're in control of it. If there was a microwave between you and the shed, the microwave went down, replace it or change the cable and then it works again, you're fine.
So what is what radio uses radio? That's what I'm understanding, right?
Yes.
I guess in very, very simple terms. And then you say like Verizon or whatever. What do they use? What is that?
It's radio.
Still radio?
It's radio frequency. It's the same idea. It's much more complex radios because when you make a call, you might be jumping on 5 different frequencies as you're talking or whatever you're doing. It hops around a lot more. It's a lot more complex.
And it hops around for what purpose? To find the best pathway to transmit the data?
Yeah, because on one frequency, somebody else might be using it over there and there might be interference. Okay, let me hop to a channel that nobody's using.
And this is all done in real time using
real time. You don't
calculators,
even notice it. Yeah.
Holy shit.
Yeah.
So that's why these fucking cell towers are super expensive.
Yes.
So how much is like an average cell tower?
To build one, like just to buy the parts, probably $200,000, but then installing it, getting the environmental studies run to put it where you want. Oh, the neighbors are going to complain. They don't want to look at a tower 20 feet down the road. It's a lot. There's a lot goes into it in order to get approval to do that kind of stuff. And if you go above a certain height, then you got to talk to the FAA about putting lights onto it so planes can see it. And it gets very complicated.
Okay, so because you're talking about the ones that I've seen out in like the country
Yeah.
in like the US where like people get paid $10,000 just to fucking switch the goddamn red bulb that's up there.
Yeah. It's different being on one of those towers. I don't climb towers. I've never been on one, but they move. Like if you're standing on the top of one.
Would you do that shit?
No, hell no.
No?
I'm good.
Yeah, that looks fucking scary, bro.
They
sway?
Oh yeah. And you feel it. But you just have to trust it.
Trust what? Trust what, bro? What the fuck? Oh my God.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so the tower itself, one of those mega fucking towers.
Yep.
How much do one of those cost to build? Would you estimate?
Those could be easily $1 million, easily. By the time you're doing all the engineering for how you got to do it. And those towers are usually guide towers. Like they have the wires coming off the side to stabilize it. They're usually very thin and very narrow and very, very tall.
What do you mean by like what purpose do the wires serve? You said to guide it?
They're called guide wires, but they actually are really the stability of the tower. Like, you know what, when you're crossing one of the bridges in the city, they have the lines that drape. Those are like, it's the same idea, except it's pulling
to keep tension in the road.
It's pulling the tower to the ground on all 4 corners, and that's what kind of keeps it still. Yeah. And it looks like a thin tower, and it is, but the guide wires are really what's stabilizing those really, really, really tall towers. And some of them have elevators that go up, so you don't have to climb all the way up. They have to get in an elevator and go all the way to the top.
So you're in a fucking thing, in a metal tube that isn't even stable in itself except for fucking wire.
Yes.
And you're in an elevator that's riding up a moving, slightly swaying tube.
Yes.
That's people do that?
Yeah. You get paid a lot of money to do it.
How do you even construct the fucking elevator shaft like bit by bit? Like,
well, it definitely doesn't go all. It definitely doesn't go all the way to the top. It'll come to a certain height, and then you got to climb the rest of the way.
Fuck that, man. Fuck that shit.
You better not drop the light bulb on the way up, otherwise you got to go all the way back down and go get it.
No. I've seen like clips of like people doing that, the climb, and it's like literally just like it looks like painted over rebar that's just welded into this fucking metal thing. And they're going with these little dumbass hooks, like as if this stupid fucking hook is gonna save you from a swaying. No, I'm good, bro. I'm good. I like it right here. I'm like electricity. I like to be grounded.
Yes,
that's
right.
That was an electrical engineering pun. I'm not even an electrical engineer.
I like it.
Dude, that was crazy. Oh my God. I kind of was too excited to start the nerd talk. I didn't even get to catch up with you, bro. Like the informal part of the podcast where we were just talking about like just shooting the shit.
Yeah.
Okay, so we'll do that now. That's how we'll end off the episode. Because you know I don't want to fucking just be keeping you on here for so long. But thank you for explaining all that. That was actually sick.
I love it. I love it.
That was really cool, man. And clearly, again, like you're so knowledgeable and passionate about that stuff. So I love like hearing from people like you, because I don't want some like I don't want to Google it obviously because like it's I'm not gonna get the explanation and the understanding that you have, and then B also like
and I'm by no means an expert. I mean, I'm learning every day,
but you're an expert
No.
for sure. No, but I wanted to like so now like just catching up with you. What's been new, bro? Because I literally just got too nerdy too quick.
Excuse me.
No, you're good. By the way, if you want another beer, feel free.
I appreciate it. Trying to think. I think I mentioned before, I just finished a new, not to keep it nerdy, I finished a new 3D printer build that I've been meaning to do for a while.
Yeah, so you built the 3D printer?
Yeah. I didn't design it, but I built it. But it's I needed something to build. Like you said, I love to tinker. And I mean, at work, I'm just working on drawings and stuff like that. I don't get to do as much of that as I would like.
Like the actual hands-on, like tinkering?
Yes. And I mean, building a 3D printer, it's meticulous. You have to be very careful and accurate. And it took almost 2 months probably.
Whoa.
But I mean, I was working on it after work for maybe an hour once every here and there, mainly on the weekends.
Okay.
When I could work on it.
Then how big is this thing?
Probably maybe half the size of this table, maybe.
And like, what's like the scope of things you could print on it size-wise?
It's a 300 millimeter cube. I know that doesn't, it's probably like this big in a cube that I could print stuff.
So this big.
In a cube.
Like that?
Yeah.
So about this.
Yep.
This big.
Yep.
So you could 3D print like a fucking Iron Man helmet.
Oh yeah, like a helmet or something. Definitely. Yeah.
Oh my god, this is a sizable 3D.
It is, yes.
Because a lot of the times I see they're like little bitch ones.
Yeah,
or like the fucking printing plate or whatever the thing that moves
is that
like
big. That's what I had in college, and then I was like, I got.
I mean, don't get me wrong, it was still cool, but I'm like, what do you?
Exactly,
like,
you can't do anything. Exactly, you got to get something.
Yeah. Now you got the real. Because now you can print like fucking cool, like and then more like bigger stuff on there. So what are you gonna 3D print?
That's what I'm trying. I have a couple projects that I'm trying to work on now. I just built a solar, not to get back to the radio thing, but I'm working on an off-grid cellular radio network thing where I 3D printed a little case. There's a little solar panel on it with an antenna, and you can put it up on your house. And then I have another one that I keep in my pocket. My phone will Bluetooth to that one in my pocket, and as long as I can talk to that other one, I can text other people that can connect to the radio, off grid from like whatever the cellular thing is. So like the reason why I did it was because like upstate where we go hunting, I don't get any cell service. So like when we're in the woods and then my buddy's a quarter mile away, we can't communicate other than driving back and seeing each other. But if he has a radio in his pocket and I have one in my pocket, we'll be able to text each other through the radios.
So you're literally building your own little private network up there.
Yeah, pretty much. And so it's solar powered. It's solar powered on a battery, and
that's fucking sick, bro. Talking about hunting, I do really actually,
dude,
genuinely want to go.
You got to come up to the property one time.
I might have to. Is that so? The property, the hunting you do up there, is it all bow? Is it all bow hunting?
No, upstate we do a lot of rifle hunting.
Oh, thank God, because I don't know if I could. I want to
pretty
eventually.
Much we mainly do rifle hunting upstate. There's a season for bow hunting where you can only bow hunt in Westchester. You're only allowed to bow hunt. You can't rifle hunt in Westchester. But upstate where we are, you could rifle hunt all day long.
So when you bow hunt, would you, of the two, what would you prefer?
I like bow hunting because of the challenge of it. You're so close to what you're hunting. You have to be so quiet and careful in what you're doing to make sure they don't hear you. With a rifle, they could be 100 yards away and you take the shot. But I mean, it's the same thing. But I mean, I like the challenge with the bow. It feels.
Yeah, that's why it's intriguing to me, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
That's why, like a lot of people talk about like the process is very, very, very difficult to actually land like a clean kill in bow hunting.
Yeah.
Whereas like you're not gonna get as fortunate because you're limited by range. You can't just sit in like a blind all day.
Well, that's what we do. We don't stalk. I mean, at least I don't. We don't like stalk with the bow. We're sitting in a tree stand or in a blind all day.
Oh, you with a bow?
Yes.
So that's like the odds of that is really
that's
low,
what you have to. It's all patience. You just got to be. You can be sitting there waiting all season, and nothing walks by you, and then nothing walks by you within range. You could see deer that are 50 yards away that you can't shoot.
Yeah, and you can't bait them because that's illegal, right?
Yeah, you can't bait them.
That's
I mean, you could do a call, like you could do a little deer call.
Yeah, but like actual food,
no, you can't
that's
do
fucked
that.
up.
No,
it's just shooting fish in a barrel.
Yeah,
basically.
you can't
It's not. That's unethical.
Yeah,
but like, it's just so curious, like. Why don't you stalk? Actually, that's a good question.
That's what's really difficult, especially here. Especially hunting season is the fall time. All the leaves are on the ground.
Oh.
You can't move. If you take one step in the forest and there's a deer 100 yards away, they'll hear you and see you. They're gone.
So
you're relying on the leaves to hear them coming. Because you'd be surprised at how hard it is to see a deer in the woods with all the leaves on the ground everything's brown. So is the deer.
Yeah.
It's hard to see.
And there's
them.
a lot of like twigs, branches, different
and shadows.
intersecting lines.
It's hard unless they're right on until they're right on top of you. And if you don't see them, 100 yards away, so you can stand up and get ready to shoot. If you don't see them until they're 15 yards away from you, you can't get up and shoot
because they're too close to now.
They're too close to
moving to get up to stand and shoot.
Yeah.
So you're telling me you're relying. So that's why you're saying you're relying on the audio from like the fucking leaves cracking.
I mean, of course you're looking around all day long, but
it's really going to be more easy to just That's really cool. Okay, so with the stalking thing, I guess what you're saying with fall time around here, it's going to be much more difficult, if not impossible.
Yeah.
But like more out west.
Oh yeah, with like elk hunting in the desert, that's where people.
So it's possible. Why? Because it's just grass, so it's not.
It's grass. It's sand. Yeah, it's much quieter, and also, I mean, you could be hiking for 10, 15, 20 miles a day there. There's a lot far distances out there that you'll be taking a shot.
So like so to be honest with you, I'm the part about killing an animal like is not, how do I say this without sounding fucked up? It's not like the difficult thing for me because factory farming, that's a whole other different topic and shit like that. Like it's a more merciful kill. And I know that it's actually, I'm not just trophy killing. I'm actually going to eat the animal. So I don't feel bad about it in that way because like you're providing for your loved ones and you're, like harvesting this animal. But what is that's not like a thing that's keeping me from actively pursuing this hunting thing. Mm-hmm. What is the situation with fucking ticks around here? Because
I had Lyme's disease this past year.
What do you mean? What?
I had Lyme's disease, I think, from when I was hunting.
Okay, I'm not trying to be a dick here, but isn't Lyme disease, is it permanent? I thought it was.
It is. Like now I'll technically test positive for it forever because you have, like, you can't, whatever, once you have it, you have whatever makes you test positive for it, but I don't have the symptoms of it.
Oh, so it's a dormant thing.
Yeah, but apparently they say that if you don't treat it once you first get it, it goes dormant like any other sickness, but then 50 years later it could come back as something else. And like,
what the fuck? I know that Lyme disease is not really understood the most in like modern medicine. It's like there's actually a lot of research that I think there's being done behind it.
Yes.
So what were the symptoms you had? I'm sorry to hear that, bro, but like how did that happen?
I had 104 fever for 3 or 4 days. It was a high fever. But that was the only symptom. Like I didn't have a stuffy nose. I didn't have like an upset stomach or anything else.
You didn't have tiredness? I thought that was like the main symptoms. Just
it was it was tiredness and the temperature. I went to the doctor and they were like, we don't see anything else wrong with you other than the fever. And then they said, all right, we'll just do a blood test. And they did the blood test and it was like, yeah, it was Lyme's causing that.
You didn't have a bullseye rash or anything?
We looked for it, but we never saw it.
Did you ever remember getting a tick on you?
I mean, I do remember in the woods all the time. You could flick them off you sometimes, but usually it's the big ticks, like the ones that you can see and flick off. Those aren't the ones that are going to give you Lyme's disease. It's the ones that are a pin, like that size of a pin. That the ones that give you Lyme's disease. You just
sent a shiver down my spine.
You can't see them.
I get very, very paranoid about parasites and shit like that. I have tiny. Like okay, so. Like you get so you're telling me this thing is like yay big, like tiny.
Yes. The only way you're going to see it is the red bullseye. If you can see that,
you're not even going to feel it swell up with the blood for you.
Maybe if it gets that big, but if it's come to that point, it's too late anyway.
So that's because it has to be in contact with you for what, 24 hours?
Yeah, probably. I don't know how long, but probably not long.
So there's not even a warning sign. There's no. You see, that's some bullshit. Because I thought this whole time that it's like, oh, if you go hunting, whatever, you get a tick. The tick is on you, but if, like, let's say I go hunting today, tonight I get back. Yeah. Oh, obviously it hasn't been 24 hours. I see the tick on me. I can flick it off. Yes. No Lyme disease, no hard, no foul. You're telling me that's not the case because these motherfuckers are this big. Yes. And they won't swell to the point where I notice them.
Nope.
And the only way to tell is just, oh, I have a rash or one day I just feel sick.
Yes. But that can happen in your backyard. You don't have to be hunting. It could happen in your backyard.
What are you talking about, bro?
They're everywhere.
I thought they were only in fucking tall, above knee-high grass.
You have deer running around
in the backyard? No. I don't
good.
Think so.
Yeah, probably because you're fenced in. Wherever there's deer running around, they'll be running around.
I went fishing
We got to go fishing, dude. That's what we got to do is go fishing.
Yeah, but I'm not doing that bullshit of fucking fishing. And now I'm not going in grass, dog. I'm only
Go on a boat.
asphalt.
You won't get a tick on the boat.
I'm only fucking asphalt or like man-made, manufactured fucking materials, bro. I'm not going to this bullshit of fucking.
Nah,
That scared the shit out of
Nah,
me.
don't let it scare you. I mean,
And especially the reason why it really fucks with me too is because like it's only here in the Northeast. Like I look at these stupid maps.
yeah, it's
everything
like
out
the
west,
bubbles right on
yeah,
us.
it's just like the most intense part of it. It's like right fucking here
Sadly.
in New York, Connecticut,
Yes.
this little tri-state area, Pennsylvania. You go out to like, and you know what the real fucked up thing is too? It should be the other way because usually nature is pretty balanced. So like if you get those amazing ass views,
Yeah.
you know, there's
Get some Lyme disease out
get
there
some
with
Lyme
it.
disease.
Yeah.
here where there's you go hiking and you get like a hill and maybe a creek, nothing grand like
No,
that.
there's some nice places out here.
Yeah, but
man.
not
Come
like
on.
Zion,
it's
bro.
true. Yeah, it's
So you're
true.
telling me I could go to Zion and not get Lyme disease?
Yeah,
I'm
but you might
moving
get bit
west.
by a
bro.
fucking scorpion or something though.
I'll take that because I
Yeah?
can see that fucker and I'll.
You got to check your
smush.
shoes every morning though when you're out there.
Brother, these are all preventable things. That's what I'm saying. You know what I mean? Like, how am I gonna? I'll do whatever little finicky
You could for a
thing. I'll
tick
take
too,
my
I guess.
boot.
When you get home, just strip naked and have somebody look on you with a magnifying glass. I don't know.
Every score. You're 6'7". All right. I'm 6'4". There's a whole lot of body to be looking through.
Well, to be like,
and
if you ever come upstate, you'll see when we're at
You're
camp.
very
I
tall,
am.
that's
Yeah, you got to
hard.
get the comb, bro. But
Oh
you'll
my
see when you
God.
come upstate. It's not like it's not like we call it the cabin, but it's a wood framed tent. It's a canvas tent
Okay.
with an aluminum roof and a stove inside. It's like you open the door to get into it. It's not like a zip up tent.
Okay.
But I mean, you don't come home and shower every day. It's not that kind of place. Like there's no running water. We turn on the generator for electricity.
How far is it from here to there?
Probably 3.5 hours.
So when you go hunting, you go in 3.5
We have to take
hours.
everything all the food and everything that we need. We're
Mhm.
taking with us.
3.5 hours.
Yep.
Then whenever you get there to the point where you leave, you
Yep.
don't shower.
No, we have a shower up there, especially in the summertime when it's hot.
Uh-huh.
It's a RV pump that you have to put the water into, warm water. You have to boil the water, or not boil it, but heat it up for comfortable shower temperature. Put it in the pump, and you could take a shower in the pump.
Okay, so where is the shower though?
We have like a separate little outhouse that we built. That's like a little overhang where it's like a
Okay.
little stand up outside shower.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, but do you use
It's not
that?
yeah, we do, but it's not like nice. You know,
No,
we
I don't give a fuck.
we don't use it unless we're very sweaty. We have to use it at the end of the day. You know what I'm saying? Like
Yeah,
in the
yeah.
wintertime when it's 3 degrees and you're not sweating, we're not going to shower. You're definitely not taking a shower outside at 3 degrees.
Oh yeah.
You know what I'm
'cause it's
saying?
frostbite and hypothermia
Yeah.
waiting. Yeah, waiting for your
Yeah.
ass to go out there.
Yeah,
and
so
get
that's
sick.
probably when it happened in the wintertime when we were hunting, and something jumped on me, and I came back and didn't take a shower. And
Now, how much? Okay, first, I don't want to be not empathetic and just kind of like, I guess to ask you, how serious has this impacted you? Like you getting?
I was
Lyme
sick
disease?
for probably a week. I was pretty sick for a week and a half. I had the high temperature. I just didn't want to move. I was so lethargic and achy, like all your joints
Mhm.
kind of ache. But then once that passed, I went to the doctor. They gave me medication. They said they caught it early enough that I shouldn't get any of those long-term effects on it. But I feel fine now. I don't think it's like nothing noticeable now. But I
So-
mean, if I went to go get tested for it, I would be positive.
But pre-positive testing Lyme disease, you and post, you don't feel really anything different
Not
at
real,
all?
not really.
Oh, I thought. Okay,
Not
see,
really.
so the reason why Lyme disease terrified me was because of the fact that I thought that
I
it's
think
like
it could, but I think it didn't happen to me, thankfully. But I think I caught it early enough. I went to the doctor fast enough, and they caught it early enough
And this
before
is-
it develops into something else.
And this is the ambiguity that comes along with not understanding it.
yes,
to,
like when I
like,
went
the
to the
level.
doctor, they were like, "We don't know what you have," and that they did a blood test just because they didn't know what to do, and they saw it on the blood test. Otherwise, they wouldn't. There's nothing pointing to say that it's that.
Jesus fucking Christ, that's terrifying.
And actually, I'm going for a blood test tomorrow to just as a follow up to make sure to see how everything's looking after 6 months or whatever it was after it. I'm going back for a blood test.
Are you going
tomorrow.
to be doing that every 6 months?
No, as long as everything looks okay this time. No.
Maybe like annual.
Yeah, I
Part
do
of
the annual.
anyways,
Yeah, exactly.
Oh my God, I'm sorry to hear that, but I'm glad to hear that you're
Yeah.
getting affected. Because I remember growing up in fucking I think middle school. Because around here, like
Yeah.
elementary school, you're only in your elementary school, but then the elementary schools converge into the middle
Yep.
school. I remember there was this one kid who, like, for some reason, I don't know why this was like a thing that people talked about, but it was like an actual thing that his mom had Lyme disease. and she was always like very sickly and like tired.
Yeah.
And I thought that was the 100% outcome every
It
single
could
time
be.
somebody. It could be for some people.
For sure, yeah, I'm sure.
But
for
it's not
everybody,
100% certainty.
Yeah.
Like if you get Lyme disease, clearly, obviously, like you're not. But I'm talking about like for her, it was like a daily, like not like she's sick, like fever every day.
Yeah.
It's just like she just has no energy
Yep.
every day.
Yep.
I'm glad to see that isn't the case with you, man, because that is very scary.
Yes.
But I'm glad to see that you're doing better.
No, I appreciate
And like
it.
you didn't, but you've never gotten even so much as like an actual confirmed tick that latched onto you. You just
never
flick them off.
found it. Oh yeah. No, yeah. Whenever I
That's
see them, I
crazy.
just boop, boop, boop.
Do you like tape up your shit down there? Like
No, but I mean, you got layers of socks. Like usually I got the big socks that come up to my shins, and then I put my pants on over that, and then I have my boots on over that, and then the outside, whatever camo I'm wearing is over that. So there's a bunch of layers. So I mean, they really have to be on you. They either have to jump onto your hand or right onto like wherever your seam of your pants are to come in to be able to get to your skin. Otherwise, it's just layers and layers and layers.
and they move slow, don't they?
Yeah, they're slow. Yeah.
Like
I think they can jump around, but they walk like they move slowly.
they can jump.
Oh yeah, if you're walking by, they'll jump on you.
How? What the fuck is what is their long jump max? Like, what does that range look like, bro?
A couple feet.
What do you mean a couple feet? Wait. Time out. You feet?
Like if you're right where you are, and the thing was right here, it would jump on you.
Are you fucking serious?
Yeah.
Okay, these sack of shit liars, camp counselors. I'm fucking calling every one of them out in middle school that told me we went to Camp Hidden Valley in upstate New York as a middle school trip. And one of the things they told us, they warned us about these fucking ticks. And one of the kids actually on my trip got a tick behind his ear. I'm
Wow.
terrified of parasites. As you could tell.
Nah, I hate parasites.
Bro, they scare me. Okay, and they told me that you had to brush up on to grass that the thing was on. Now you're telling me that these things got fucking Jesse Owens range and they just
From
long
the free
jump?
throw line, yeah, man, yeah. No, the parasites that scare me are the ones like when you go out to like South Africa or something, and you're worried about it swimming up like your dick hole or something. Those are the parasites.
That's in the Amazon.
That shit is crazy.
Yeah, that's in the Amazon, and you know, but do you know about that?
Other than that, no.
The specifics?
No.
Okay. Do you know how it's not even that you can't pee wet like so?
Oh, it like corks it.
Yeah, no. But I'm saying like, okay, when you found out about that, did you find out about it and they said to you that it'll get you if you're in the water and you pee in the water?
I thought just if you were in the water, it can get like as long as you're like if you're in the water exposed.
No, I don't think.
Oh,
it's
you
that.
have to
I
be
think
peeing
you have
for
to
it
be
to-
peeing because it uses the signals of the urea in the as a guide because it doesn't have like eyes. You know, it has to use and it's the water's murky, so it has like a sense for whatever ammonia, whatever it is that is commonly excreted through mammalian urine.
Hell no.
And it finds it. That's like the homing. It's tuned into that frequency, like you were talking about before. It's into the ammonia frequency or urea frequency. But I always thought that it was if you're in the water, like in a pool or something, and you have to pee, and you're like, I'm just gonna fucking no one's looking pee.
Yeah.
Allegedly, I heard or since have been re-educated that if you pee into the fucking water, so if you're a dude and you're like, I gotta take a piss, and you piss in the water, it'll swim up
Your
the fucking piss stream
way,
that you're
dude.
creating.
No way, dude. I don't believe that
because
shit.
this thing is not. It's not. You can't
don't see it.
It's
Oh, it
like,
just goes.
It's small. It's so small, and it just goes up there.
No way, dude. No way.
This is what I
is it like
heard.
some brain-eating amoeba or
It's
something
not,
like
it's
that?
No. It's just the parasite that likes to. It for some reason it prefers the blood on the inside of your urethra. That's why I think it does that. And then it has teeth that dig into like the side.
No.
You have to have someone go up in there and extract it like a fucking. That's not even the one that terrifies me the most, to be honest with you.
Which one does?
It's the ones that like you don't know about. I can handle pain like a mango worm.
Yeah.
You know, like when like a the larva fucking grows under your skin. That shit's gross. The fact that it's living and it's in your skin.
Yes.
But in a way, it's terrifying to get it. But once you have it, it's like I would almost prefer that than like a tapeworm or something. Because I could see that it's there. I'm like, I'm gonna fucking cut my shit open and I'm getting this motherfucker out and then I'm pure again. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But right now, for all I know, I could have had a ShopRite sushi roll 2 weeks ago that had some shit in
tapeworm.
it. That is the more
You know how you
I
get
don't
those
know
things
about
out though? You have to like sit in a bath of milk, I think it is.
I thought you could kill him with like some.
Oh yeah, definitely.
I'm gonna hold on.
That I think there is like
Well, hold on, wait.
no, I think there is like an antibiotic thing like that you could do now that could kill it, but then it's got to come out somehow. But like if you sit in a bath of milk, it'll like smell the sweetness of the milk or something and go to the closest
do you not
orifice
feel
out.
Some shit like
oh, I'm sure
like
you do.
Moving
I think you feel it coming out and you got to grab it and pull it out. Like,
no, I'm saying right now as you're describing this, do you not get like ants crawling on your skin? I get that feeling when we talk about
probably
tapeworms
something in
and
you.
shit.
It's probably
you know
listening right now, dude.
I'm gonna fucking fist myself tonight to get that thing out of me, bro. If I fucking, you know what the real fucked up thing is? If I go up there feeling that I think I have something, I pull it out and it's just corn. That'll be the more fucked up thing. Because then I cause myself all that pain for no reason, dude. I can't.
No,
I
dude.
actually.
Hell no.
Parasites are they're like a phobia of mine, and I recently had like a friend of mine that's he's a pre-med.
Yeah.
And he showed me some of these fucking pictures of like the worst of the worst parasitic infections.
Oh god.
And he's showing me these things, and you would not believe some of these shit that comes out of human beings' bodies. Like you're talking about someone that's 5'5", and there's like 30 pounds of worm, and it's like
but like
they look like noodles. That's
like
the thing that's fucking
funfetti coming out like a
No, I know you've seen this. This is the one that fucks me up. Oh, dude, you know what? We're going to have to end it after this. My imagination's too good for this. Like, I'm picturing it in my head. You ever seen the video of the black bear walking around the fucking woods
with the dragon? Yeah. Can you imagine that's you, dude? Like, that thing is
my God.
It's a tail.
Okay, this is the last story that I'll say, okay, about this shit. Because this is, I'm fucking dying right now. This is crazy. Oh, Jesus Christ. My grandparents on my Colombian side, obviously Colombia, you know, it's not a super, now it's pretty developed. But like even back in the 1950s,
yeah,
that was not, it's not as fucking, it was not like as developed, even closest to what it is now.
Yep.
What I'm trying to say is their medical system wasn't like amazing like that, right? And my grandparents vividly recall having moments like in their youth, like it was normal. Like, gosh. Oh shit, that brother or that sister, they got the fucking the los gusanos, like the worms. They just have to, they just got to take some medicine, and then the fucking kids like squirming. And they said, like, my grandfather told me a story. And this may be why I have a fucking phobia of him. When he was a kid, he vividly remembers being so uncomfortable because he just felt itchy and like something was a kid. Like, oh, something's like bothering my butthole, mom. Something's like my butthole. Something's like moving. It's itchy. He goes to take a shit.
No.
And he wipes. No. And then he fucking feels something, and he looks like in between his legs because he's a kid, right? Remember, he's a kid, so he's flexible, right? And he sees the worm out of his ass, and it's just like moving. And he's like, what the fuck? And he grabs it, yank it out. And it was long. He said this thing was like from here to here, like this fucking long. As a kid. He just pulled it out of him. And he said it was flat. Like, it was flat. It's not like a worm, like an earthworm. It's just a flat, almost like fleshy tube.
I think it's just feasting in there, son.
Fuck that. You see, that is the exact shit. But I'm not worried about that because they say that one of the one of the primary symptoms of tapeworms is weight loss. And clearly, your boy fluffy as fuck. So I wonder if you're eating
hot sauce or something real spicy. If that thing in there is like, ooh. Like, what the?
Apparently, garlic and ironically, wormwood extract and oil is a very powerful and potent anti-parasitic.
They can keep all of it.
I think I'm gonna fucking be taking that once a year and just shit my fucking brains out. Whatever comes out. All right. That's it. It's a wrap, brother.
Thank you, brother. It was nice. Thank you, man. I appreciate it. Thank you for coming on.
Seriously, that is so much fun. So much fun. Very educational too. I hope you guys found that conversation as fascinating as I did.
I was probably blabbering on for nothing.
No, dude. Seriously, that was really, really fun. I'm like, we're
gonna do it again. Definitely. No, if you'll have me on.
Oh
again.
Yes, 100%. Maybe next time you could bring some models or whatever it is too, because I've been over your house. I know like all the techie and like nerdy shit that you have. I love all that stuff. So thank you for explaining that too, bro. And thank you for coming on. Outro's just snapping and pointing up. If you made it, you'll see when. I don't know if you remember. If you made it to the end, thank you so much for liking, commenting, subscribing, watching the whole episode, all that social media bullshit. Until next time, cue the outro music. There you go. And we'll see you on the next one. Deuces, y'all.